Good morning, Labrit. So, first of all, I would like to thank organizers for always taking us to the places which we wouldn't visit otherwise. And as Rafal already used the joke about the taxi driver in the morning, it was the same experience for me, and I believe for most of us. So I will proceed with the presentation, and at the beginning I will give a brief context about our new national energy independence strategy, which was adopted in June this year in the national parliament. So the first works for the new strategy preparation began back in 2015 under the previous government, and was finished almost 3 years later by the new government. And it changed a bit, but before going to the new strategy, I'll make a brief introduction what happened in the Lithuania's energy sector in the last decade. And 4 key developments I could highlight in the last decade. So the first and the important one for the electricity market, it was the closure and start of the commissioning of Ignalina nuclear power plants. 1.3 gigawatt capacity overnight from the electricity exporter. Lithuania became an importer of the electricity. To manage this tackle and the reliance on the few suppliers of electricity, new interconnectors, 700 megawatt to Sweden and 500 megawatt to Poland, was built in the following 5-6 years. In 2012, we had an experience of one of the highest natural gas prices in Europe. To manage this dependency on the single supplier and the price effects on that, LNG terminal was built in Klaipėda in less than 3 years, and it had the very positive effect of 40% price reduction of gas prices for the users. Another important story in the last 10 years was in the central heating district system. In 2012, in the central heating district system, 70% of energy came from gas and 30% from the biomass. 5 years later, the story was completely different: 70% biomass and 30% of the gas. So it was instant and huge switch to the renewable energy sources in quite short period of time. So what is our current energy mix in Lithuania? So the major user of energy is the transport, and almost 40% of energy is used in the form of oil in the transport sector, as well as gas. It's used for the industry and for the heating purposes. Then the increasing number of the renewables, electricity, and coal. As I will speak more about the electricity sector, this is a key info about the Lithuania's electricity sector. So I think it's the most important that we are electricity importer. We import more than 2/3 of our electricity needs from abroad. And this is the market price for the last year. This year, unfortunately, MIS's prices is a bit higher, almost 44 euros per megawatt hour, due to a number of reasons. So, as I said, a number of developments in the last decade, but some of the challenges are remaining, in particular to energy security agenda. So, I mentioned the strong dependency on the energy imports, electricity imports. We are still part of the Braille electric system, TSO system, and in the last few years, the dynamics of the renewable energy developments a little bit slowed down. So the new strategy has 4 key pillars. So it's a traditional energy trilemma: energy security, or reliability, competitiveness or price, and the sustainability. And in addition to that, there is a fourth dimension, it's an innovation and in energy. And the long-term goal from the importer of energy technologies to become an exporter of new sustainable energy technologies. So these are the key targets from our new national energy strategy. So it's, I should say, very sustainable driven strategy. And regarding renewable energy share in the final energy consumption, our targets very short term is to achieve a 30% renewable energy target for 2020, 45% for 2030, and we're aiming for 80% of renewable energy in the final energy consumption for 2050. Regarding the electricity sector and district heating sector, the stories are, the goal is more or less the same, to be completely fossil-free by 2050, but the initial positions are quite different in the electricity and in the heating sector, but the goal is more or less the same. So the most problematic from this perspective of sustainability is the transport sector. It's the largest user of energy, and currently we have the lowest share of renewable energy used in this field. Even in the long term, we do not see that it's a potential to be completely fossil-free. Another important message that there is in the next decade there is going to be a rapid increase in the local electricity generation. Currently, we produced almost 30%, and in the next decade to have it 70% of our electricity needs covered by the local generation. So I'll speak about each pillar briefly, and I will start with the sustainability pillar. I'll focus on the electricity to the investor's point of view. Also, the important part is energy efficiency, but I will not go into detail that much in this field. As I mentioned, targets are clear to have this sector decarbonized and to meet the Paris Agreement goals in this regard. To evaluate where we are now, we are quite in a favorable position. We are already surpassed the 2020 target by the EU Commission. The target was 23, and we already achieved 26% of our energy coming from the renewables, and we were the first in Europe to sell this surplus in this so-called statistical transfer mechanism to the Luxembourg. And this is a photo from last year, November, with our president and Grand Duke of Luxembourg, quite happy reaching the deal in this field. 1 week later, Estonia signed a similar agreement with the Luxembourg. So, for the investor's point of view, what are the key messages? So, currently we are preparing for we had wind energy development from up to 516 megawatts from 2012 to 2016, and now we are preparing a new state aid and support scheme, and the basis of this development is the lowest cost for the consumers. So we are aiming for technology neutral auctions. So solar, wind, biomass will compete in these auctions, and the lowest bid wins for a sliding premium tariff. So the first auctions will be in the next year, third quarter. Also next year will be published auction calendar for the next 3 years. And from the strategy, we see that in the next decade, it's going to be a lot of investment needed in this field to achieve the target of almost 4 terawatt hours produced from green energy in Lithuania. there's a need of almost 800 million in the following decade. So another part is which is small scale renewable generation is the prosumers. Our government has a target to achieve the 34,000 prosumers until the 2021. There is a need for this of up to 150 million investment from the companies and from local residents, and the government already took steps to significantly improve the investment conditions for those market participants. So there was a significant reduction of administrative burden, reduction of the regulatory burden. So for the next few years, there will be a record capex subsidies for those who are planning to install small-scale generation in the next years. So speaking about energy security, two key topics. There is a synchronization with continental European networks, and then there is a long-term solution for gas desertification. So regarding the synchronization, I will not go that into much detail, but I could say that we are very happy that this summer there were reached agreements between our Baltic countries and Poland regarding the scenario of synchronization, and the target date is 2025. Yesterday, our TSO submitted the applications to Connecting Europe Facility Fund for infrastructure support, and the total cost of this project will be 1.4 billion euros. So the first stage is almost 500 million euros, to which our TSOs submitted application yesterday. Next topic for our energy security is our gas supply diversification. We had a working LNG terminal in Klaipėda, which proved his useness in the price. As I mentioned, 40% decrease in the price following the start of operation of LNG terminal. We have a number of suppliers. Each year we have more suppliers coming to the LNG terminal. This brings us a better price for the consumers and of use of infrastructure. And Klaipėda LNG terminal is also one of the EU leaders in the use of the terminal. So it's used of 35% of its capacity, and the EU average is 27% of usage of the terminal capacity. So it also brings us benefits apart, from the gas prices. It's also builds a value chain at the smaller level, at the bunker level, at the small-scale LNG level for transport, for industry, for isolated areas. So and already our LNG company, Klaipėdos Nafta, are working, I believe, in 3 continents, consulting new LNG projects and in their implementation. So we are sharing know-how already in this field. So already this year it's been a study for a long-term solution and by Pori consultants, and to have a long-term solution after 2024, after the lease term of the LNG terminal will finish. So after cost-benefit analysis, the suggestion is to buy out the terminal after 2024, as this has the leverage power over the gas supply prices. Another part is the innovations, and I'll briefly just cover the innovations. As I mentioned, the long-term target is to become the energy technology exporter from the energy technology importer by having the investment into infrastructure in Lithuania and in the Baltics. So from starting, we already have competences in biomass and biofuel technologies. So we already have the strength, and we are already exporting it to the regional countries. We already have competences in solar, not that much in wind, but we are, as we aiming for wind energy rapid wind energy development in the next decade. I believe it's going to develop one way or another in Lithuania in the future. Another is third part is quite interesting. Is we have seen a rapid pace of digitalization of the energy sector. So and all Baltic countries are quite tech savvy and at the forefront at the IT development. So it could be a huge competitive advantage into Lithuania and to the Baltics to develop those future energy technologies, software technologies in the Baltics. Finally, we are launching Lithuanian Energy Agency, which will be a core competence center for all market participants. As I mentioned, LNG terminal brings us the value in the fields which are not strictly for the gas supply to the users in the Baltics, but they have operations in the LNG bunkering, LNG for heavy transport, LNG for isolated industrial users. Last year there were shipments to the north of Poland, as well as some central heating district systems which are off-grid from the gas TSO network. Competitiveness, before going to the next slide, I should highlight that there are two points in competitiveness. One is the price aspect, to have the price which would ensure that our industry would remain competitive in the global markets. Another part is to have a level playing field for all market participants to operate in the energy business. So to have a clear regulatory framework and not discriminating any participants in the market. So I'll speak mainly about the price aspect, and I'll speak about what's been done because for the domestic users, we enjoy the one of the lowest prices of electricity and gas in the European Union, together with Baltic neighbors and Romania and Bulgaria. But for industrial users, the story was different. So it's in the last few years there have been some steps to improve both price and investment climate in general topics. So there was a significant reduce in the length of procedures and a significant decrease in the price for the connections for the industrial users. And also this year there is public service levy exemption for industrial users, which I believe last year was approved by the European Commission for Latvia, and it's been done in the number of European countries. So that's pretty much it from our side. The three key takeaways from my presentation for what's our strategy and where we are going. So I should highlight three key points. So it's increasing the renewable generation, increasing local generation, as well as focus on innovation and energy technologies. So thank you very much.